G'day, and welcome back to another episode on board Sailing Excelsior. This week we reunite with friends, we wait out a huge storm in Mozambique, enjoy a table tennis tournament for the ages, and set sail south along the coastline to South Africa's Richards Bay.
Don't you want a man who fully understands a sailor's heart, a sailor's heart.
As forecast, the day after arriving in Lingalinga, we were soon at the mercy of a huge southerly storm making its way up the coastline. The crew on Nandji and the cruising Kiwis made a quick dash to the other side of the bay to stock up on some fresh food and supplies, leaving the infamous Marley dog to hang out with the Excelsior crew for the day.
Little friend today, Church. It's been nice having doggy cuddles, hasn't it? Yeah. The wind's picking up. Look at him.
Yeah.
Mummy and Daddy are
You
you?
could dead set hear Yosh talking from the big boat.
Who's that, Molly?
Look at him.
Who is it? Your family's back. I told you they'd come back.
Yeah. We've given him a feed, he's done with us. Right, you guys have fed me, I can go home now. Yeah, you guys
Thank you so much. He's missed you guys.
It was awesome. It was awesome. Not long after the crews arrived back at the boats, full force of the storm was being felt. We knew we were in for a rough couple of days.
So even though it looks like we're at sea, we're at anchor.
It's one of those weird moments where you can actually get seasick while at anchor.
Yeah. Oh my God, look at this lagoon.
Sarah was right to notice something strange about this boat, as later that day it broke free of its hold in the mud and took itself on a small but scary journey through the anchorage. So we just had a pretty intense moment. We were all sitting ashore having lunch, and Yosh off Nandji just came flying in his dinghy, and it's pretty wild out there. He come flying in, ran up the beach. We're like, oh shit, that doesn't seem right. And he said the lagoon that's out there is just dragging, and he's just about to hit us. So we all jumped in the dinghies and raced out, and we didn't know, but Yosh had already been beside our boat for like 20 minutes, fending this lagoon off with his dinghy. And when he finally got a break between the two boats, he actually raced in and grabbed us. So we've all come out and just tried to re-anchor it. But it's an ex-charter boat that's been sold and been delivered, and it's just in a pretty terrible state. You know, it's only got 40 meters of chain in total, and right now you can probably hear the howling. We're sitting in 35, 36 knots of wind, and it was dragging like it was motoring. So yeah, that was pretty full on. They're anchored way out the back now. Rob from the cruising Kiwis, he jumped on and helped them out, and he threw a second Danforth out in front of their anchor and more chain on top of that. And yeah, as a collective, everyone, we all sort of got it all sorted in the end. I actually didn't do too much. I was sort of sitting there as a backup, but I can't use my dinghy to push other boats because it's a bit hard plastic, and I didn't want to put a hole in it, but I was there as a bit of a backup just in case. Like, putting a little hole in the side of the boat's better than watching it run up against reef or up against rocks. So Yosh did all the heavy lifting there with his dinghy. and then when they finally got the other boat anchored out, he ran out of fuel and he was just drifting away. So he threw his anchor and waved us down. We went and got him and towed him back. But massive effort by Yosh there to save everyone's boats, man. He did that on his own too, so that was huge. But check this weather out, and it is going to get significantly worse yet. That's the anchorage. Blowing about 30 knots at the moment. With a significant current that runs through the bay, the outgoing tide against the strong wind made the simplest of tasks extremely difficult. I'm just going to jump overboard. I want you to push the button, okay? Go, left!
do it, babe?
No, he's just as good as knots as I am. Whew. I nearly lost the dinghy. When I took off, I was going along and then this big wave hit me and it lifted me and then the wind got under it and I almost went bloody vertical. This isn't very pleasant. Oh, look at Nandji. It's on a lean. Holy shit. That's Nandji there actually leaning over. They must have like a 20-degree heel right there. That's insane. There's the Kiwis and the lagoon that dragged us up there. Out there now. Look at this. This is just gross. After the weather cleared, it was time for a showdown between the Aussies, Kiwis and South Africans, showing off our skills, or lack thereof, at the table. Single game elimination saw the seasoned athletes drop one by one until the final showdown between Australia and New Zealand. The final competitors were Aussie Yosh versus the Kiwi Rob, and I'm pleased to say that Australia took home the gold in an absolute nail-biter. Collecting his prize for the win, Rob gifted Yosh with the trophy.
So this is a very privileged prize for the winner, and Ivan has partaken in this prize from years and years and years ago. And so, mate, Yosh, I feel so privileged to have this opportunity to award you with the egg. Your egg that is going down the hatch. Yeah. Oh, that's great. That's super fresh. It's a really good condition.
Yummy!
The winner's egg!
It's actually not too bad. It's sort of like, it's smoother than an oyster. So.
The next day, the weather had cleared, the forecast was good, and our passage to South Africa was a go. So cool. Full patchwork sail, and they just hammer along. Alright, it's go day. We've all decided last night that it's time to leave. We've got a decent weather window straight out of the north for the next couple of days, so we're going to make a run for it. With any luck, we can get into Richards Bay by Tuesday. There is a slight concern of a big storm Tuesday night, so we've all just sort of conferred with each other and just decided that what we'll do is, if at any stage we drop under 6 knots, well, this is what I'm going to do anyway, if at any stage we drop under 6 knots, an engine goes on and we just keep powering through. So there'll be no slowing down below 6 knots for us. Just going to punch it in and try and get in Tuesday morning. And the reason being, we obviously want to avoid the storm Tuesday night, but then come Wednesday, there's a huge northerly blow coming, and they're forecasting between 30 and 40 knots. Now, while that doesn't sound too bad while you're in a protected harbour and about to go in a marina, trying to dock this boat in a really tight marina in 40 knots will be a nightmare. So what I want to do is I want to try and get in Tuesday morning, get checked in as quick as possible, and then get across the marina before this next big blow hits. Alrighty, day 2 update. We didn't film anything yesterday because our GoPro had a big old meltdown and just refused to come on. We couldn't charge the battery and who knows what happened. It's all sorted now, but this one might be on the way out. But anyway, day 2 since we left Mozambique for Richards Bay, and we have covered about 180 nautical miles in 24 hours, which is not bad going considering last night it was pretty wild out here. We had serious swell coming from the south against a 2 to 3 knot current, and it was just jacking up, and every time we feel like we're getting some speed up, a big swell had hit us and we just almost stopped dead. So we've actually done pretty bloody well to cover those sort of miles, considering the sea state. At about, I don't know, probably about 4 or 5 o'clock this morning, the wind swung around from the north, which basically took the top off those standing waves, I guess you could call them, from the current against wind. And yeah, it's actually been quite pleasant ever since. The wind dropped right out. We've got 12 knots at the moment, I'll show you. 11 to 12 knots true with that little yellow one there. 7.5 knots over ground. And the purple one here, that's our current. So we've got 2.3 knots right now on the tail, which is just sensational. So, you know, the one good point about sailing down the Mozambique Channel is these currents. If you get into these currents, man, you fly. Might not be comfortable, and you might not have much wind, but you get into the current and it's off. So it's pretty good. We ran a single reefed main all night last night, and for most of the night we had a single reef in the head sail. And that, like I said, that kept us ticking along at nearly 10 knots. So that's sensational. The Kiwis are about somewhere between 16 and 20 mile behind us. And Nandji, again, they're behind the Kiwis. We're not sure how far. We haven't been able to contact them. So Yosh had a bit of a drama with his prop yesterday when we were motoring out. So he had to start sailing a little earlier than we did, which would have been bloody tricky considering the wind was out of the south and yada yada yada. So he's a fair ways behind. So I can't quite claim this as a win against Nandji. Although I'll give him plenty of shit once he gets to the bar. But anyway, doesn't count. I feel sorry for him actually, because they really had to sort of beat into it sailing wise to get away from Mozambique, and with no engine. I think he's sorted it now from what I heard. It could have actually just been a fouled prop. So I think they're all good. But yeah, anyway, that's about all I have to say about that. If anyone's interested, I said single reef in the head sail. These black marks here, see these black stripes, they're actually reefing points. So you can see this big patch here, that's basically for the first reefing point for the quill of the sail. And then if you come around here, you can see that it actually extends all the way along the back side of the sail. See that there? So yeah, we've actually got 3 reefing points on this head sail. So we reef that all the way in. First reef typically comes in at around 20 to 25 knots, and then second reef for about 30, 35 for the third reef. And then, I mean, if the wind's getting up after that, you got to really start considering whether you should even have the head sail out at all. So yeah, and then we've got 3 reefing points in the main. At the moment you can see we've got 1 in, just got the dog bone on. I made these out of Dyneema, you would have seen in Gove. So it just goes through there, hooks across the bull horns. We've got another one right there and another one halfway up the mast there. So 3 reefing points for the main, and we've actually got a hanked on staysail that just goes on this inner forestay should it get really nasty. Hopefully we're never in that situation, but you know, you got to prepare for these things. Prepare for the worst, hope for the best. But yeah, that's it. So about 195 nautical miles to go till Richards Bay, and we're looking forward to it. We're looking forward to getting back into civilization. Like, this is going to sound shit, but we're looking forward to getting back into like a Western civilization where you can get almost anything you need straight away. It's all there. The groceries, the supermarkets, they've got all the, I guess, the food that we're used to. You know, nearly every country we've been to since we left Australia, you've pretty much got to do away with something. You know, Indonesia was you just didn't get red meat, and then in Sri Lanka and the Maldives and all that, you just couldn't get dairy, like no cheeses, no butters, none of that sort of stuff. And we have not had decent bread, apart from the baguettes in Mayotte, like a decent loaf of bread. It's crazy, right? Like you buy the loaves up there, and the moment you try and put something on, they just crumble and fall apart in front of you. So a decent loaf of bread, oh man, I'm gonna get a Spanish mackerel or something, then just make a Spanish mackerel sandwich or something like that. Ridiculous, but we're really looking forward to it. The girls are talking about going to the hairdresser. Sarah hasn't been to a hairdressing salon since she left Australia. That's dedication, you know, because there's been plenty of opportunities, and she's like, no, I don't need it. So good on her. She's clearly not pretentious, that one, but I think the girls are due for a little hairdresser date and just ritz themselves up and make themselves feel pretty. I think they deserve it considering what we've been through to get to Richards Bay. So we were able to look at it yesterday. I'm just uploading a heap of information here. We've done just under 9,000 nautical miles since we left Reback in Malaysia. So, you know, that's been in 7 months. So we've put the hard yards in and really put some miles under the boat. And she's needing some love too. There's definitely some things we've got to catch up on between Richards Bay, Durban and Cape Town. There's some maintenance that really needs looking at, and again, I'm excited because I can actually get parts, real quality parts, not stuff from Asia that mimics it and lasts for about 2 weeks, but real good stuff. So anyway, we're almost there. We'll do our best to film the entry and check-in process, but apart from that, this is going to be us for the next 200 mile. The wind is forecast to basically sit on our tail for the rest of the trip, no change. So if you're wondering how the rest of the trip goes, this is going to be it. So not to, just to ensure we didn't have the completely smoothest run in, our welcome to South Africa was a hell of a light show this evening. We noticed it sort of forming over land on the satellite on Windy, and I had hope that it wouldn't actually come out to sea, because a lot of the storms in East Africa here sort of, they'll develop on land and then they die off as they come to the ocean. But this one was accompanied by a big low pressure trough. It was just sort of moving up the coast, so I had a bad feeling about it. Sure as shit, we copped it. Brody and I sat out here and just sort of had the radar going and just weaved our way through, I guess, the cells as best we could. Some of the lightning strikes were pretty bloody close and pretty big. We didn't film it. I couldn't find the GoPro, to be honest, and my butt was puckering. So yeah, I think for now we might have, fingers crossed, I shouldn't say this, but I think we've passed the worst of it. We'll keep going, but
you were going to head in that way.
I was actually, yeah, yesterday, well the night before, just with the way the wind was going and I could see there was a good current along the coastline, I was actually going to head into the bay just north of Richards and run really quite close to the coastline in the 200 metre depth mark, and that's where they say the fastest current is. But we actually chose to sort of sit out wide and in some calmer water, and the wind angle was just right. So we just stayed out wide, and fortunately we did, because the lightning show, I don't know if you can see it behind me right now, and that's the coastline there, and it's sort of sitting at about 10 mile off the coast. It is just strike after strike after strike, so I'm so glad we chose not to go down that coastline.
Yeah.
It's now going to be a bit of a tedious night, where it was going to be straight through with that big trough coming up. There's a southerly behind it. But it dies out in the wee hours of the morning, so I've got the engine going at the moment just to ensure that we get away from that, and then once we do, I'll shut the engine down, and even if we have to drift at 2 or 3 knots and wait for this system to basically dissipate, then the northerly will actually take back over again and push us into Richards. But it just means we're not going to get in as early as we had hoped. But you know, the alternative is we punch into it now and get smashed by a southerly, or we slowed down and waited for the wind and got thumped by a lightning storm. So you know what, it's just a bit of diesel for a few hours. I'll take the medicine and just deal with it as best we can. So, oh man, sailing life just dishes them out one after the other, doesn't it?
Has its ups and downs.
Oh god. Anyway, nearly there.
Nearly there.
Quick morning update. We managed to survive the storms last night. We weren't completely unscathed though. Unfortunately, we tore our head sail. I think it got caught up on the spreaders. I can't even think, I'm that tired right now. It was a long night. I think we got off pretty light. Sorry, I can't see, it's so bright. We got off pretty light from the storms, I think. Nandji, who are not too far behind us, about 40 mile behind us, they copped 60 knots and serious lightning and ended up having a hove to. the Kiwis, the cruising Kiwis who were just behind them, they got about 35, 40 knots, but the sea state was so wild they actually had to turn and run with it. So they actually had to turn and go north away from where we're going. I think they've turned back this morning and they're making their way forwards. But I think all in all we got off pretty light because I don't think we saw anything over 15 to 20 knots. And we had the radar, so we just sort of weaved our way through all the systems. Whereas neither of those boats have radar, so they just sort of pinned it, I guess, and hoped for the best. Anyway, that's about it. We'll get into Richards Bay hopefully by about 2 o'clock. We're motoring, obviously there's not a breath of wind now, and what there is out of the south, so pretty shit conditions. I'll be really happy when we're done with this coastline. The wind finally came in not long before reaching Richards Bay, but unfortunately with a tear in the headsail, we motored into port with a decently sized following sea and wind funneling through the harbour entrance.
Fucking hell.
What an entrance!
It's rounding you out. It's like bloody crossing the bar. Is there a fish in your ring? Yeah. Again. Yeah. Where is it? Oh, yucky!
How did you not smell that?
I don't know. I cleaned my room yesterday. I cleaned my room
Why would you
yesterday.
sniff it?
So
That's just weird.
I
How did you not know that was there?
Is it fresh?
Your floor is it's not stiff, so it's not been in there long. But it stinks. Why did you not hear that? Why is it always her window? Harbour Control Richards Bay, Harbour Control Richards Bay, Harbour Control Richards Bay. This is sailing vessel Excelsior, Excelsior, Excelsior on channel 12.
Excelsior control plane over.
Good afternoon, sir. Sailing vessel Excelsior is an Australian sailing catamaran. We're 1 nautical mile to the north of the harbour entrance, requesting permission to enter and proceed to the quarantine dock.
What is your last port of call over?
Our last port of call was Mayotte in France.
And what is your next port after Richards Bay over?
Next port after Richards Bay will be Durban. Over.
And what is your draft and length overall over?
Draft is 1.4 metres. Length overall 14.7 metres.
How many people do you have on board over?
There are 4 people on board. Over.
And did you register with OSAS over?
We did. Over.
Thank you. Permission granted over.
Thank you very much. Sailing Excelsior, standing by channel 12. That was easy. Straightforward. How thick is that accent? Thanks for watching, and we hope you enjoyed this week's episode. Join us next week as we check into South Africa and start the process of boat jobs and exploring everything Richards Bay has to offer. And please don't forget to subscribe and comment. It makes a big difference to us and is greatly appreciated. Thanks again, and we'll see you next week.